This is Mike Steckline with the Institute for Enterprise Excellence. We're having an interesting webinar July 21st. Wanted to provide a little information about that. It features Lew Frees from Harmony Inc., and he's going to be describing something that he calls natural leadership. I thought I'd provide a little information about how I'm viewing how this fits within our model for sustainability and velocity for enterprise excellence. One of the ways to think about this is we know that every individual is influenced by the systems of which they are surrounded. And so we think about the interaction of individuals and systems. We know that individuals can and do create systems, and this is done both formally and informally. And we also know that systems influence individuals. We know that systems drive behaviors. We know it's not the only thing that drives behaviors, and also there's multiple systems that are affecting behaviors at any given time. A definition of systems, I use the one by Dr. Deming, as a network of interdependent components that work together to accomplish a common aim. They can be formal or informal. It could be as simple as a routine or a common way of doing something. The informal systems tend to dominate the formal systems. That's because there's stronger ownership and autonomy with those that are developed by the individuals. Thinking about this and the connection with individuals, individuals can form a system, an interdependent network working together. And the output of a simple system, for instance this, is more than the sum of the parts. It's the product of the interactions. And ideally, you want these interactions to be positive. So we return to this view, thinking about the connection between individual and system. In a typical lean program, what we've noticed is the primary focus seems to be on these principles that are listed here to improve what needs to be improved. Our model, we call it the sustainability model for enterprise excellence. I've placed in the middle of the diagram, and I'm going to show you why in a bit. When we talk about the principles of enterprise excellence, in addition to the sustainability model, we talk about a velocity model. We know that the principles are grouped in categories of alignment, enabling, and improving. So the full list of the principles that we talk about are shown on the right-hand side. You can see that it's more than the principles of improve. What Lew's going to be talking about on July 21st, I'll place over here on the left-hand side, and he talks about the attributes, practices, and habits of natural leadership. The right-hand side seems to tend to primarily appeal to the engineer mindset. Some people call these the hard skills. You look at the history of management, you might find the scientific management in this realm. This side tends to be primarily focusing on the OD side, or the relationships, or the soft skills. Lew calls it the inner work, and I think they're both important. Here's a larger view of the details of the attributes, practices, and habits that Lew's going to be describing on his July 21st webinar. One of the things that we talk about when we teach our course is the difference between values and principles, and the realization that values are developed by individuals, they're subjective, they're not the same as principles. And for instance, in this cartoon, people can use those values of teamwork, loyalty, precision, innovation as thugs that would mug a lady, but that's not the same as principles. And we talk about anchoring values to principles. My observation is the same might be said for the habits, practices, and attributes of natural leadership. And I think that thinking about how do you anchor them to guiding principles is an important thing to think about. So here's one of the things I'm taking away from my learning from Lew is if people really understood these principles, if they understood how they work together as a system for enterprise excellence, and then they would act and exhibit habits and practices and behaviors of natural leadership that would show up in the aspects that Lew's going to be talking about on July 21st. Another thing that Lew describes is the influence that we have on each other, and an individual's influence. He talks about 3 degrees of influence. So we influence other people by our actions, our attributes, our behaviors, and those people are then going to influence others. So you see this idea of 3 degrees of influence. So it works from the inside out, person to person. So one of the current ways of thinking about this is the natural leadership, the practices, attributes, and habits affects the way we work with each other, both working with each other and also working on the system. So we're thinking about that middle zone there as far as where it is placed. Another thing we've been talking about is how do you apply this? How do you deploy it? And in our work at the Institute for Enterprise Excellence, we talk about a deployment plan that includes the idea of model cells. And how would you go about testing this idea and then determining the interaction between individuals, how it supports, say, the more scientific approach as far as the design of systems. And then we've been talking about ways that you can assess baseline assessment and future assessment. And both ourselves at IEX as well as Lew have been experimenting with the idea of uses of surveys to demonstrate the efficacy of the interaction of the natural leadership concepts to our IEX model. So if you'd like to learn more, July 21st, 2017 is the date. Click on that URL, type it in, and look it up, and you can find out the details of the webinar. Thanks for your time.